Management notes from the combine seat. What are you seeing this fall that you should act upon during this winter? That's the topic of today's XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. This episode is brought to you by Simon Innovation. Protect your crops and maximize yields with a full lineup of innovative precision tools engineered to enhance the efficiency and accuracy of your sprayer. Visit simoninnovations.com and start getting more ROI out of your sprayer. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. I've got Gail Stratman with FMC, and I've got Garrett, one of the founders of XtremeAg. And we're talking about, right now we're recording this, it's mid-October. Everybody's hot and heavy into harvest, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on. It hits you all at once. You worked all season. You did your preseason stuff. You came to the events. You came to our field days. You watch what we're doing. You listen to our podcast. You were smart about your inputs. You're now reaping the harvest. What else are you seeing? If all you're watching is a bunch of crops come in the front of your combine, you're not really keeping your eyes open. What are you seeing at harvest time, whether you're literally or figuratively in the combine seat, that is an adjustment that you need to make? Are you making note of it and then going to act upon it? Because we know how it gets. You get a little bit busy and you kind of forget. You are big on this. What should a farmer be looking for and looking at right now this time of year? Besides the yield monitor and how excited they are, what should we be looking at that we can then do corrective changes to between now and next season?
Well, the condition that crop is in coming into the combine, whether that standability, I'm hearing a lot of guys are talking about how this crop, because of all the lack of moisture we've had, has really cannibalized itself in the last 30 days. And so standability is really becoming a concern out there. Well, you got to look at that and see, is that because I chose not to put a fungicide on these? And that's the one place I've heard from several guys that are taking the yields out of fields, is they can really see the difference between fungicide and no fungicide application this year, even though we got late in the season and got dry, and maybe they thought they didn't need it. But the standability piece is really starting to impact them now. And so now, as this crop is getting so dry, they're trying to push through it as hard as they can because they're worried about losing a lot of that yield and headed to the soil because they can't keep it standing up. So
wait a minute. So you said standability and fungicide. I guess I wasn't aware that those two things go together. Kelly, do standability and fungicide treatments go hand to hand?
Well, fungicide will give you, along with other things, but fungicide will give you better plant health, and plant health will give you standability.
Yes.
Is there anything else that I could have done or need to next year? Because since this year's already about done, is there anything I can do next year to help my plant standability besides making sure that I've got fungicide treatments, or something else I can do? Everything, I guess, plant health stuff.
Plant health. We run insecticide on every acre. We keep backing off the traits. We keep using more of Gail's products, Hero, for example. We keep using more of Gail's products like Hero's insecticide. And the less and less traits we run in the corn, the better and better the yields get.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had a call a couple of weeks ago where they were harvesting, and they say there was a lot of black coming out of the side where they had applied our Adastrio fungicide. Well, where they were at, they also had a lot of aphids. Well, if you have better plant health later into the season where you applied that plant's going to stay greener longer. Guess what? It's going to attract more of those aphids because the rest of the area around there where that crop isn't healthy isn't going to be conducive to that. So because of that, you're seeing more of that honeydew produced because you had more insects attracted to that at the end of the season because it's the only thing that was alive yet. So it's one of those situations where they were thinking it was a negative, but it was really a positive in the fact that they had plant health later in the season, and they were extremely happy from the yields, but just were trying to figure out why they had more of this black coming out of the corn as they were harvesting that late in the season. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And they probably could have, looked at whether or not they needed an insecticide application. But it's really just understanding the dynamics and the whole system of what contributes to plant health throughout the season, whether that's nutritional, whether that's just relieving stress. Fungicide helps with plant health. All those things interact with each other and can really help you, put the most bushels in the bin at the end of the season and have the best crop standing throughout the fall season as well.
My combine crew keeps talking about the neighbors, and they're hearing the stuff at the elevator about the corn coming in at 12%, 14%, 15%. We're still combining 24% corn. And I said, if I'm combining corn 15% on October 7th, Mike Evans is getting fired because my plant health sucks. And the idea that this dry corn is a benefit, you know how many dollars? Well, Gail can get, how much potential is left on the table? I heard of corn coming in at 11%, 10%, 12%. How many dollars are left on the table, Gail? How much potential? How early did that corn die compared to when it should have, when the corn is that dry?
Yeah, if you're at 10, 12, 15% moisture in early October, that corn was done producing any sort of dry matter first week of September.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it really shut down early. And if you had a short season hybrid and you planted it really early, okay, that stands
that's
to
different.
reason.
If you didn't get to it and it got mature, that's okay. But when you're combining, today's October 14th, you're combining 112-day corn and it's going into town at 13% or something like that. You left dollars on the table. And, going back to what you talked about fungicide, there's a Pioneer dealer here to the south of us, young man. They farm a couple thousand acres. Every year, there's one field he won't put in fungicide because he wants to see what it is. This year, it's 30 bushel.
The difference.
Yep. It's a 30 bushel yield difference with lack of fungicide this year.
Okay. Well, I think you can justify the fungicide treatment for even at $4 corn. You can justify it.
Yes.
$120. Okay.
I remember when we started. We talked. My dad was worried about the corn being wet and things like that. And so we would only put fungicide on the corn on corn. We wouldn't put fungicide on the rotated corn. And one year, we added a farm, so we took out a fence and we farmed it all together, but we only fungicided the corn on corn. And then when we were combining, I still remember you could see where the plane had come out and made the turn to go back into the corn on corn versus the rotated corn. So the plane had come out and turned around on the rotated corn, and it was 32 bushel. And after that, we have fungicided everything every year since then. And now what we've done besides that is added the fertility, the sap testing, really trying to dial it in. But back then, those are the things that we started with, and then paying attention to the traded corn and the rootworm and things like that. Here about 2020 or even 2021, Evans and I started running Hero and Gail's other products. Capture, things like that, Gail's other products. We started backing off the traits, and we documented a few times in a corn-on-corn situation, a triple stack rootworm corn versus a conventional corn or a double stack corn with Hero is 18 bushel yield difference. The insecticide is 18 bushel better, and it was $10 an acre cheaper to put in. A $5 market, that's a $100 return right there. Those are things that we pay attention to. I don't even test that a lot anymore because it's just a grower standard practice stuff.
Right. So enough years. By the way, how did Gene handle it when you told him, Dad, you were wrong about fungicide? How did he handle it? The combine pass proved it.
Right. He talked about that. We went. So then what we did, the management difference we made, we started planting earlier corn. Because when you can keep the corn alive and keep it healthy,
yep,
the earlier corn, you can take a step back in everything from a maturity standpoint because you're still going to get the yield. And so now, back then there would be times when I was a young farmer, you'd have a good number of corn and you'd plant 75% of your acres to that number. Now, I couldn't even guess how many different numbers of corn we plant. We're trying to manage that moisture. We're going to start with 100-day corn, which most people won't plant. We're going to go all the way to 118-day corn, which most people won't plant. But I want to combine everything at 22%. I want to combine everything at 19%. And so we're trying to manage that moisture.
Yeah.
Those are the management changes we've made.
Got it. So management notes from the combines. Do you agree with all those, Mr. Gail?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's things you have to take from every season and try to make sure they make sense in your operation. I think back to when I was a young farmer, Dad used to plant everything was 115 to 118 day corn. Didn't matter if it was the first he planted or the end stuff he planted, because he was just trying to plant the best hybrid. But you dealt with these moisture issues throughout the season. And so I wish there were times there where it's like, okay, we need to just change things up a little bit. And that's what growers need to do. They just need to stop and think a little bit about what their goals are in their operation and how they can make their life a little bit easier. And then also, where are they getting the most return on investment from those inputs? So we're certainly going to need weed control next year. That's probably not some place where you're going to try to cut back. But understanding in those good years, how do you get your nutritional balance where it needs to be so that you're not having to, in the down years, maybe you can save a little bit there. So those are the kind of things that you just got to think about, because we're all in this farming thing for the long term. Yeah, you hear a lot of people, well, I might not be farming next year. I don't think you ever go into farming thinking this is just a one-year venture and then you're never going to do it again. Not with that kind of investment. So it's thinking about this thing in the long term, and how am I setting myself up for success in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years versus just for this year or for next year.
Kelly, what do you think most people, or too many people, overlook, don't see, aren't paying attention to as the combine's role, and that maybe you were guilty of at one point in your career, not paying attention to when the combine's rolling?
The trials and the education, knowing that a double stack corn or conventional corn with Hero is 18 bushel better, things like that, because you always get such a hurry. You always feel like you're behind, things like that. Being able to manage and take the time to learn everything, that education, the data from those trials is very, very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gail,
and then understanding the why piece of that. I mean, a lot of people just get really enamored with the yield at the end, but understanding why the yield, and what you did throughout the season that maybe influenced the outcome of those trials. Mm-hmm. That's really the one that becomes important to understand, and really hits home on why you do the things you do, and why you do the trials is not just look at the results, but understand what the results are telling you about what management practice you actually made.
Yeah. Why did this happen? Yeah, looking past the excitement of the yield or whatever, say, what things did I do? And obviously then that goes to record keeping, which goes to all the things like your data and your technology that harnesses all that and all that. All right. Anything else that we didn't cover on the management notes from the combine seat? Kelly, you've been making adjustments after every fall. Do you, I assume you start implementing these changes immediately? Because I was there in fall of 3 years ago, and you said it's all going to be about stress reduction, because apparently you went out and saw some fields and it was about stress reduction. So what's your big one that you're going to do? You like to have themes in fall going into next year. I like it. It's like, okay, the season's about a wrap. Here's what we're going to look at next year. What is it?
Soluble calcium, the balance of the soil. We saw a lot of stuff from, and we talked about it in the previous episode with Gail. Soluble calcium from a yield benefit, soluble calcium from a weed control benefit will be a big one next year. We don't know that we'll have a 2x2 program. We are considering very strongly that we won't run a 2x2 program, and we will put, we'll do more things with fungicide. We'll do more things with the airplane and reallocate those dollars there.
Is it to save money, or is it just a reallocation at different timing?
Reallocation. We're spending about $42 in that 2x2 program, and in some areas we're getting back 72. So there's a $30 ROI. That's not even a 2-to-1.
Yeah,
a 2-to-1 is not enough. There's other areas where it's a break even. 250 bushel applied versus 200. So there you're losing $40. Mm-hmm. We'll know at the end of the season. But I would tell you right now, if I had to guess, we won't run a 2x2 program, and we'll reallocate that money to more soluble calcium, and we'll reallocate that money to more things with the airplane at that time, be it a fungicide pass or added fungicide pass or added fertility pass, depending on the disease pressure.
Interesting. And so if you would take that money out of the 2x2, you come back later, you're still your starter fertilizer and all that still in the trench, but you're just, the 2x2 is not.
Yeah, we will not change the in-furrow program, but we feel that we might change or eliminate the 2x2 program.
Got it. Well, when you make that decision, I want you to then come on and we'll do another recording about that. Gail, management notes from the combine seat, what you should be looking at now for better results next year. You like it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just pay attention to how that crop looks coming in, and maybe things that you need to adjust going into next year, whether that's fertility and soil health, whether that's weed control, whether that's disease, whether that's insect, so that when you run into this again, you're not in that same situation. You can make those timely adjustments and learn as you go.
Got it. Gail Stratman with FMC. You can find out more. You can go to what's the website if I want to find out more about all this stuff from you?
ag.fmc.com.
ag.fmc.com. He's Gail Stratman, joined by Kelly Garrett. I'm Damian Mason, been doing this for a long time. As I always tell you, when you get to one of these recordings done, there's hundreds of recordings, podcasts just like this at XtremeAg.farm, hundreds of videos with guys like Kelly and Gail that we've done at field days, at events, at Commodity Classic, all over the place to help you. It's all free. It's a library of free information, informative content to help you up your farming game. If you want to take it to the next level, become an XtremeAg member. We have a special going for 18 months at the price of 12 between now and December 13th. Till next time, thanks for being here. I'm Damian Mason.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation. Cutting the Curve is brought to you by Simon Innovations. Don't let your sprayer's limitations hold you back. Visit SimonInnovations.com and upgrade your sprayer's capabilities now.